Hi guys, Yao here. Quick question. How can something be overlooked, underrated, and polarizing at the same time? Many places in the world share this feature, but Taiwan has its own version of it. Today, we're going to find out how it shaped the way we live. Follow me and don't get lost. Of my top 10 childhood memories in Taiwan, half of them happened at my grandparents' arcade, the kind of place where everybody knew your name and the trouble you caused. Now, this isn't your video game kind of arcade, more like cover walkway kind of arcade. In Chinese, we call it qílóu or riding building. Yeehaw! The arcade is a fascinating piece of architecture found across the world. From the Plazas Mayores of Spain to Milan's Galleria Vittorio Emanuele II, and even Istanbul's Grand Bazaar. Depending on who you ask, they're either a clever urban design or a clutter nuisance. But one thing is for sure, they are inseparable from the city life in Taiwan. My grandma rented the arcade space to a dessert vendor, and she would pack small bags of peanuts for her, chat with the neighbors, and keep an eye on us grandkids as we raced through the arcade, probably half worried and half amused. We're at Bo Pi Liao Historic Block, over 200 years old, with some of Taipei's best preserved Qing Dynasty buildings. Here, you can spot an early version of the modern arcade.
左边这边的话，它是清代时期所建立的市街的一个门面，它的区域里面分为前后或者是上下。那前面他们通常是作为店铺，后方作为居所，或者是说下面是做店铺，上面是做居所。那延伸出来的所谓的丁阿卡的空间，是因应台湾相对潮湿的气候，时常有午后雷阵雨。 所以也因应商业店铺的一个方便，所以有稍稍的往外去做一个丁阿卡的骑楼。
Perfect for Taiwan's subtropical weather, these walkways kept customers and shops dry, ideal for comfort and business. But after the Qing dynasty, a new governing power stepped in, transforming this once organic features into a strictly regulated architectural mandate, giving it a clear purpose and function. Modern arcades here do it all: shade, shelter, and infamously, parking. Swerving through the scooters, stalls, and boxes, I often wondered, were they always like this? Or am I missing something?
原本其实，在台北最早有骑楼这种空间的时候，以前我们台湾人叫亭子脚、丁哈卡啊，那个是在清代的时候就出现这样的空间，但是并没有写到法规里面。进入了日本时代以后，亭子脚的空间的需求写到都市计划的规范里面。那个时候叫做市区改正。 然后有一个家屋建筑的准则，每一栋街屋它的宽度大概是13台尺，13对，然后它的深度是12台尺，然后它的高度是11台尺，所以差不多大概就是现在3公尺到4公尺左右的范围。OK， 那有了这样子数字的规范之后，每一家每一户都去做到这样子的宽度和深度，它就可以形成一个连贯的通廊。 除了深度、宽度这种尺寸的规范，它包括外面的招牌，以及他们会有一些落水管，就是一些建筑物的设备。它其实最早都是由官厅，也就是由公务员的建筑师去进行设计，在统一制作之后，把台北的这几条路变成一个所谓的模范街区。当时在日本官厅工作的建筑家。 他们受到的建筑教育 大部分是在日本本土的学校，包括东京帝国大学，就是现在东大的前身。但是他们的老师以及他们使用的教材，学习的是西洋建筑。
西洋建筑，
因为在19世纪是一个帝国主义的时代，那当时所有的专业者都会希望尽可能的学习来自美国和欧洲的知识，来帮助日本这个国家脱亚入欧，就是离开亚洲进入欧洲，然后完成了一个现代化的过程。所以我们会看到它的许多风格和样式，是当时他们去模仿会出现在欧洲和美国的建筑的细节，所以这有点像是一个混血的产物，由日本的建筑设计师去学习模仿西方的风格和形式，来到了台湾，由台湾的工匠和台湾的材料去打造出来像是这样子的模范街屋。
Arcades weren't always scooter parking lots. During the Japanese colonial era, their dimensions and uses were strictly regulated, and owners had to include them in storefronts. The goal? Orderly streets and shelter for pedestrians. But when did it all go sideways? Let's check the history. After 1945, things changed yet again. Cities grew in size, and so the regulations of the arcades became loosened. They start to become these multi-purpose places for goods, for stalls, and even makeshift living rooms. Basically, the Wild East for these walkways. To truly understand the chaos of the walkway, we first need to talk about its biggest contradiction. It's both private property and public walkway. And this is where the law starts to get messy. Architects usually classify the arcades into two main types: mandatory arcades built for law and volume bonus arcades built for incentive. It's often a compromise between the owner and the community. How much private inconvenience is worth the public good? This legal ambiguity is one of the reasons why the modern arcades still exist. It's interesting compromise. From 2002 to 2014, the Taipei city government carried out the arcade floor leveling program, improving accessibility and overall appearance. That is why you may see slopes on them. Structurally, the arcade has been capable of withstanding mechanical pressures. However, the larger question still remains: can it withstand the pressure of the future? Should we keep these urban features? And what will this future be for the next generations?
我们都知道整个全球的气候变迁的一个大趋势哦。像今年的夏天，大家可以感受到，哇，热得要死。
对，没错。
那几个强降雨，到处淹水。那这些事情，其实在建筑形态上面，针对这件事情的回应，就整个都市发展对这个问题的回应，其实骑楼它是其中的一个可以对应的一个对策哦。像它这一栋建筑，我们可以看到哦，它是架在底下是人形，上面就是有这些非常大量的绿色的植栽。那这个植栽其实当然你在环境上面，你让人看到绿色，当然是会觉得很开心。对。但它其实有另外一个功能，就是提供动物的建立动物的栖地，让动物的整个生态的能够延续。台湾的有一个比较得天独厚的地方，因为台湾的气候、环境、纬度等等，其实本身就是一个生态多样性比较多的地方。
对。
所以在台湾在做起来，其实你在台北市住的话，其实你在晚上，尤其是很多地方还可以听到猫头鹰的声音啊，等等。
有，对，就像是我们的骑楼也是有类似的这种功用，就比如说这种绿带是给动物，那我们的 arcade 也算是
对人。我们希望我们的都市未来是以步行为主的一个活动的一个方式啊，取代过去都是以汽车为导向的一个发展。
对，
所以我们现在讲的是人本的交通，我们希望创造一个更适合人步行或是骑脚踏车的空间。
所谓的 walkable city。
对 ，walkable city。对，你期待的应该就是一路走过去啊，就算你是 window shopping 也好，
对，
你看到了这些变化。那骑楼就可以确保，不管你是在天气好或是不好的状态底下，这样的商业行为可以被延续下去。
Love them or hate them, arcades are an integral part of the city. Born from practicality, shaped by history, and always changing. For me, I have mixed feelings because sometimes they feel messy with random things here and there, and sometimes they feel quaint, like the memory of the smell of dessert or running around carefree, like the background of life's joy and challenges. In this hyper-connected world, nothing embodies better the phrase, no man is an island, better than the qílóu, or arcade. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans, connecting and living through a shared space. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.